This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. This is Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Central Texas Life, and what a happy new year we are wishing you. And it is my great joy and privilege to have Congressman Pete Sessions here with us, representing the 17th District, and in fact, your office right across the street from the Alico building. So it was not a long commute for you today.
And I've lived here all these years and only been in the Alico, I think, twice.
Well,
as
here
a
you
little
are.
boy in the early 60s,
Yeah.
1967 or 68.
Yeah, isn't it fun? I've never
Oh,
had
it's
anybody
beautiful.
turn me down to come and do an interview because they want to come to the building. They don't care
Well,
about talking to me.
It is. There's got great history, great knowledge of it. It's very
You
nice.
should go. You should take a tour of the basement sometime.
I'm going to go to the roof, too.
Yeah, do the roof, but the basement is 3 levels. It is like a museum down there. It is awesome.
You know,
Well,
history is so important, not just to a family and a city and a nation, but it's really important to key things like this.
Oh yeah.
When I lived in St. Louis a couple hundred years ago, I went and visited the Arch on a regular
Yeah.
basis
Oh, yeah.
because people came to visit.
Yeah, they
And
wanted to go see it.
they
Go up
wanna
in
see
it.
the
Yeah.
arch,
I've been
and-
up in it once, and that's enough for me.
Yeah, well,
One time.
you know, it's like if you live in San Antonio,
Yeah.
everybody wants
Right,
to
they wanna
come
go.
see the Alamo.
And well, the Alamo and the tower, they want to go up in that
Okay.
tower too. But anyway, yeah, gotta see the Riverwalk. Well, okay, it's a brand new year. Happy New Year.
It is
really-
a brand new year.
Yeah. So we're looking at a whole new administration. Well, part 2, I guess we could call it. But what you're going to be doing, which I think is fascinating, because we're hearing so much about DOGE and Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk and what they're doing, and in counteracting waste and fraud. And they go, but this is something you have been doing.
Well, I have been since 1998. I've been head of what's called the Results Caucus. The Results Caucus is a group of members that are interested in not just the financial security of and integrity of programs, but more to their efficiency. And we have a saying, every dollar you need, but not a penny more.
Mm-hmm.
We have made real progress and headway, passed pieces of legislation, have a rating or coding system now where huge agencies and departments and things that are done are on what's called the high risk series, which means that we highlight those and pay attention to them. The government is aware of them. OMB, Office Management Budget, is aware of them. And it talks about things that repeatedly, year after year after year, spend our tax money, but either A, cannot account for what they do not meet the needs of what they do, or have serious financial problems with the integrity of the money. And HUD would be an example. HUD every single year is on that list. The Pentagon is on that list, but for the first time ever this last year, the Marine Corps received a passing grade
Really?
for the work that they're doing for financial integrity, knowing where they put things, knowing where they are, offering a perspective that might be from a CPA or an investigator. And so there could be knowledge that we're trying to make a difference. What this DOGE is bringing together these two titans of commerce and industry, Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, and saying, as they came to us, both of them said, we have invested our money on jobs in this country and its future, and we are concerned about what that future is, because there have been great nations that have fallen in our midst because of their inability to effectively pay for what they do, to move jobs to where they would pay for their systems that they have, but most of all, they crumpled because in the face of world competition, someone else whooped them. And so they've said, look, we want the United States to come together and see this as a problem. They stand before us as one of the three co-chairmen. I looked at the team and we looked at each other and said, either we're the answer or the problem. Which will we choose to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I choose to be the answer and not the problem. So we are going to work on this on a bipartisan basis, on a bicameral basis. We have a Republican senator from Iowa, Joni Ernst, who's going to head up on the Senate side. 4 Democrats already from the House. And we're going to take this blocking and tackling on to the benefit of the American people.
Yeah, I think the American people are going to be shocked and stunned as they, as you know, the light is going to have a shine right on some of the waste, the trillions of dollars that are wasted.
Well, that's exactly as you say it. It is trillions of dollars. We held a hearing probably in September where we had it's not a bow on top of the package, but an understanding about the physical integrity of the systems of the United States. And the heads of these agencies came in and said, the big agencies came in and said, we had between $350 and $531 billion worth of waste, fraud, or abuse this year. It was easy to point to some $400 billion 3 years ago that the Biden administration improperly dealt with the COVID payments.
Oh.
$400 billion wasted. And the real question is not how did it happen, but what did we learn and what are we doing to make sure it doesn't happen again? There are serious questions that need to be asked. At the end of the hearing, I asked each of them, okay, you've told me about all the great things that you've done to get better. In 3 years, what are we going to look like after all this work you've done? And I called it a lightning round to give me a yes or a no or an answer. And only one person would give me an answer, and they ended up saying, it'll be worse, not better. So these are all things that we need to take seriously. That's part of my job.
Oh, no question about it. Well, the Department of Defense failed its 7th audit. I understand you were talking about these agencies. And, I mean, yeah, a regular business couldn't function that way.
A business that's successful and that stays open cannot function that way.
Right.
It is not unusual for business to fail because of this same circumstance.
Yeah. What keeps you awake at night?
There are a number of things, but the biggest one is the national security of our country. Now, under that, there are several different things that fall underneath that. As a senior member of Congress, I get a chance to see some of, not all of, because we compartmentalize the things that we know for good reason, the internal security of the country and the integrity of the country. It's not just roads and bridges and dams. It is actually the things that we do from the day-to-day basis. Terrorism is all about striking at someone when they least expect it and taking advantage of it. But we also have financial insecurities where these gangs utilize our own computer systems to steal everything we have. And then lastly, so I would say physical security, and then the security of our financial assets. They could be at your own bank. It doesn't have to be that they're taking necessarily money from the largest company or big companies. And then I would say, lastly, whether we are able to face ourselves down, which happened this last elections. Americans saved America. What are we to become? That keeps me up at night. Look, I'm born and raised in Waco, Texas, an Eagle Scout. I know everybody's not an Eagle Scout, and I know everybody's not a Texan, but we have to have a greater reliance on character building.
Yeah.
And as people grow into things, they have to see where doing the right thing for the right reason is the right answer. And I see sometimes where we're not living up to that.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps me up at night, bothers me.
Right, right. Let's talk a little bit more about the economy. I know President Biden says he is handing over to President Trump the best economy ever. Your thoughts?
Well, in fact, the tax code, which today has lower taxes than when Mr. Trump became our president, we had the top tax rate for a corporation about 36.9. We were losing jobs around the world. It was becoming hard on the competitive marketplace of the world to compete with other countries that spend a lot of their own resources undermining American products. We undertook this in 17. And in 17, we said we are going to make America and our companies more competitive with the world. Immediately, $500 billion came in from overseas, and we shored that up. It is true that President Biden did make this statement. I think he makes lots of statements that are completely not only false, but there's really no real evidence behind it. But let's say that he believes this. We find that America we have a growing stock market. We have all sorts of companies that grow in stature and value, but that's because of the tax code. That is because of what Republicans did to make sure that the new jobs would come here. The creation of jobs are always a telling sign for what's in your future. The opportunity for America to be competitive and grow its GDP has been something that's been a difficult task. Have we stayed up? Yes, we've stayed up, but just a few years ago, there were 5 and 7 million jobs going wanting. The president talked the country into not going to work. Today, the federal government has millions of employees that do not go to work every day. They go less than 1 day a week on average.
How do they get by with that?
Well, the commander-in-chief, the president of the company, is also the leading union member.
Yeah.
And he caters to them. I spent 16 years at AT&T, and if the chairman of our board served as the head of the unions, we would be in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, so is the federal government. And so you've seen the playing out of the passport office, the IRS that's 3 years behind. It goes on and on and on. And it's because this president's talked people into staying at home. We remember as Texans a few years ago with the advantages of being in Texas as jobs were moving, not just because of the embodiment of higher taxes and more government in California, West Coast, New York, East Coast, but we saw that Texans go to work.
Yeah.
And companies need people that go to work, and they are struggling all over the country getting people back to work. Even large companies like Apple, Intel, unions, teachers that don't want to go back to work. COVID was over a long time ago.
I was going to say COVID was kind of an aberration, but it did have some lasting effects. I suspect with DOGE and a new administration, there are going to be quite a few government workers looking for jobs.
Well, in fact, we're going to give them a chance to keep the one they've got.
Uh-huh.
And
if they'll just do it.
Yeah, but they're going to have to come take the job back. They're going to have to show back up at work, and it is one of my major considerations as chairman of Government Reform and Oversight Subcommittee on government operations and the workforce. The federal workforce needs to be prepared. If they're going to draw a paycheck, they may stay at home 1 day a week. There may be some activities related to that, but they're going to have to spend the first few months where we're back at work. Because we have to figure out, and they need to know this, we're going to figure out how many people we need. And if you're sitting at home, your nose isn't getting counted.
No, we don't. We may not need you. Yeah. Let's talk about tariffs. I know President Trump campaigned on the idea, and he's very, very big on it. And yet some would say, oh, it's going to cost the American consumer to pay for that. What are your thoughts? What are your answers on that?
The president has indicated this, and he was on the campaign trail and talked about it. He utilized these plans and programs when he was first elected. We collected a good bit of money from around the world. It has certainly helped. Mr. Biden or the Democrats changed none of it. And it's not because they didn't have the votes. It's because there was an advantage to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the advantage today, now 4 years later, is that President Trump will use this to get what he wants. You know, there's something called foreign policy also. And we're dealing with other governments that would still want to do business with us. And he's bringing up other issues, like, for instance, Mexico and Canada. You're going to control your border so that we don't have a problem with immigration from your country. No, we're not interested. Mexico and Canada, no, we're not interested. He said, fine, okay, I'll put a 25% tariff on the products that come from your country. I think we'll rethink that. Yeah. And it really helps behavior that way. The president is doing things really that no other president has either been capable of or would not do. Prime example, you recall President Trump, first term, literally first 2 months, was told by President Obama the hardest circumstance and problem that they never solved and probably would not be solved if you're President Obama, is what he said about North Korea. Well, Donald Trump came and fixed that problem in a matter of weeks. Personal use of your power matters. It matters in a world, and it matters with your agreement that you're going to follow up. So I think that the tariffs, by and large, will either stay because a country had an option, or they will go away because of good negotiation. You remember, President Trump is a negotiator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the art of the deal, no question. What do you think? I know we're talking a lot about the next administration with Donald Trump, but what do you think he learned some lessons first time?
I don't think there's any question that am I seeing a different Donald Trump? I'm seeing a refined Donald Trump, one that I believe, whether it was the Butler, Pennsylvania circumstance.
That was life-changing,
and
know.
It would be for me.
Yeah.
I think we saw a little bit different person there. I think also timing alone has a lot to do with it. The president really realizes that 4 years goes quickly.
Yeah.
And that if you...
Well, really, he's got less than 2 before the midterms. When,
well,
he's really got to get a lot done of his agenda.
Yeah, but he'll be in office for 4 years.
Right.
And
but in essence, he sort of is a lame duck president.
Sure he is. He started that way. But let me agree with you. But I think that he sees time differently.
Mm-hmm.
I think he thought he had 8 years in the very beginning.
Yeah.
But what happened was the bureaucracy of Washington slowed that to a crawl. And he is making sure ahead of time that that's not going to happen. How did he also ensure it? We got a Republican Senate, Republican House, big swing vote across the whole country. And a number of Democrats have figured out, whoops, I thought I had a solid Democrat seat, and I do not with Donald Trump around. So the same ideas that resonated with the American people in those even blue districts, if we deliver this, then they will come back. If we do not, they will not come back. And so the Democrat seats are then safe.
Yeah.
Our goal is to do what we said we'd do and sweep the country next time.
Well, but you don't have a huge majority right now. There's a majority in the House, but it's pretty pretty razor
You know,
thin.
it is, and far closer than what I or anybody else wants. When I was chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee in 2010, we won net 63. 89 new Republicans, 2010, big sweep.
Was that
And
the Tea Party time? Was that?
we'll call it that.
Okay. I just
I
remember that
very
when the Tea.
effectively
Yeah, yeah.
used that right.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It was Barack Obama at the end of his first 2 years, and that's also some mathematics and history that we need to remember. Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Barack Obama, all after 2 years, the first 2 years, lost the majority to Republicans, or in George Bush's case, the 6th year. And so there's timing. The difference is now we recognize that the Democrats were to come back, they would impeach Donald Trump again. Not for anything,
Oh,
for everything.
that's right. Oh, if he had not won, they'd have him in jail. I feel quite certain. And the other thing that's kind of disheartening to see, they're having a fire sale of the parts for the border wall, selling it for pennies on the dollar, just to throw a roadblock, throw as many roadblocks as they can for the incoming Trump administration.
We put that money out there in 2017. The president actually never requested a penny. He was still on his mantra of we'll let the Mexicans
let them pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the beginning of 2017, he began this, well, we'll take the money out of the Defense Department. The head of OMB at that time was Mick Mulvaney, and Mick Mulvaney wrote the letters to Congress. Here's what the president's policy is. And a guy named John Carter, who's out of Round Rock, was on the Appropriations Committee, and he and I concocted around necessarily what even the Appropriations Committee did. I put it into the rules package. We are going to give the president $1.5 billion. And so he got it. He never asked for it. I'm not really sure that Mick Mulvaney saw it anything different than deficit spending. But we had to get it started. So in 2017, that started, and or really in 2018 it got started, and then it took a couple of years. It takes time. I have been every mile of the border in a helicopter, and we have a long border, 4,300 some miles. But where there are gaps, millions of people fit in between them. And that's what's so interesting about Yuma, Arizona. Yuma, Arizona, it's only about 80 yards wide. And they've gotten in 4 million people right through that hole. And it's we've got to clog it up. And really the reason why we do is to save our men and women who are Border Patrol.
Yeah.
Sure, it's the American people we're worried about, but it's the mismatching, overmatching by people who overwhelm the men and women of our Border Patrol.
Well, no question, illegal immigration was certainly a dominant issue for voters. And it looks like President Trump's hit the ground running on getting getting some of at least the bad guys, deported. But I can already predict there are going to be lots of really sad stories and an attempt to turn the American sentiment, against deporting these people who are here illegally.
Certainly you could figure that out, but I think they wisely have said we're going to aim for criminal aliens first.
Yeah.
The second is we're going to aim for people who already have been adjudicated but not removed. And once you do that, that's at least a year's worth of work.
Yeah. It's going to be a long process and not without bumps.
Sure. But the American people need to be reminded why and how, and when we come across as common sense, we'll win.
Okay, good. Well, anything else on your mind that you just
Well, there's a lot on my mind.
I'll bet there is.
You know, the servicing this congressional district is 14 counties.
Mm-hmm. That's a big
Goes
district.
goes from here in McLennan County down to Round Rock, south of Pflugerville, just a little bit what would be east of 35 and 79, which is Round Rock. Probably about 15 miles. There's a $40 billion Samsung factory that produces chips. They're not there yet, but they still have 12,500 workers on site.
Wow.
A lot of black dirt down there that is now being filled up with houses. Texas has a responsibility to turn around and make successful the moves that a lot of people have made.
Mm-hmm.
That will require a lot of focus on our part and diligence. I think of a responsibility to pull these things off. This district also is home to one of the largest agricultural districts, not just cow-calf operations, but a lot of other things. We have a good bit of energy providers that are here. And so we've got to stick after, not something that's difficult for us, but we have to pull off infrastructure changes. People have seen here in Waco, lots of people moving here. But all over this district, we have a lot of needs at a time now when maybe those appropriations dollars are going to dry up. So a lot of work I've got to stay after every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking earlier about agriculture and the challenges that farmers and ranchers are facing.
Well, they are, and they're facing these challenges, notwithstanding a lot of weather-related issues, whether it be tornadoes, whether it be heavy rain, or whether it be hail. Lack of water has become a problem in Waco. As we know, Lake Waco is great. We love that. But we have a lot of commercial entities around that are taking there's something called groundwater and surface water.
Mm-hmm.
The surface water we are using up very rapidly. It is easier to replace the rain when it comes in 12 and 15 inches in Lake Waco. We go low levels, high levels, but we're trying to keep that pretty standard where there's enough of it. With the growth that we have all over central Texas, we need more water. Agricultural products need water. Farmers and ranchers, and as a 28-year member of the Texas Farm Bureau, I try and stay up with these needs. In East Texas, we have a good bit of industry in trees, and the Texas Forestry Association needs rain there also to make sure that trees grow and the canopies are healthy. Spend a good bit of time with them off not just their success, but the things that we are leading edge in Texas about. We had G.T. Thompson, who's the chairman of the Agriculture Committee, who actually came down here, and even though he's from Pennsylvania and has a huge industry that is related to timber in his area, he saw how individuals work to keep in conservation to regrow and use healthy forest initiatives and to make sure it's a sustaining operation. We include those in Farm Bill, and it's very helpful. Texas' contribution to the agriculture of this country is vitally important. And yet, down on the border, we're losing key groves of grapefruit, and we've lost our sugarcane completely.
Really?
And this is because of a problem that we're having from an agreement that we signed with Mexico. Mexico is not releasing water further down the Rio Grande that they're supposed to, and operations that have been there for 100 years have now closed.
Oh, no.
So we've got to fight also with Mexico.
Yeah.
I would anticipate we can do a lot, and Donald Trump will get it well across the line.
Wow.
But we've got these kinds of fights on an international basis that have to be fought on behalf of agriculture for Texas.
Yeah. We don't eat if they don't get their work done. One last question. You have any New Year's resolutions?
I do. I do, and that is that I think it's more than just going to church. It's more than just sitting around the table with your family on Sunday or at Christmas or at Thanksgiving. We need to heal our country.
Mm-hmm.
Our country has found a way to find a divide, and you mentioned one of them. One of them is the border. Opening up the border, bringing people in here, letting anybody come in, not having rule of law. These are all dividing points. And Ann, I would say to you that I think the majority of Americans, including a number of people who might be sympathetic to calling themselves Democrats, are worried about our country, America. And so I'm hopeful and prayerful, and that includes me. I have to be careful about the words I say, the meditations of my heart, and the things which I pray for. I pray for us to find a way to have God help us heal America. One nation under God. I'm there.
Amen. Well said. Congressman Sessions, thank you so much
Hope I did
for
well
your
enough
time.
to get invited back.
Hey, absolutely, anytime. You're just across the street when you're in the district, and you're always in the district,
I come
right?
back
On weekends,
Come back
every
weekend.
weekend. I think you're to be commended for that, because it's important for you to know what the people here are thinking, and you go to events. I see you all the time at events, which is always a joy. So. Hope you have a wonderful New Year.
And so let me add this is your podcast, but let me say thank you for what you do. We see each other every year at the seniors.
That's our RSVP. It's awesome.
Out at McLennan MCC.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you that your singing ability, your presence on stage, your delight of trying to be good to other people, in this case it is seniors, it does matter.
Wow.
And as we both approach, we're getting close to 50 ourselves, both of us, Ann.
Sort of.
I'll be 70 next year.
Oh.
And so it's
really, you're just a baby. I've already been there.
I know, but I'm not trying to say what I'm trying to say is, but we need to be faithful to that, because
I know.
It's more than just our parents.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and and it's a joy for me to be able to still have the get up and go, to be able to go and do, and but yeah, I'm always honored to get to go and sing the national anthem or whatever, because
it's more than that.
Well, I love this community, and certainly love the great state of Texas and these United States, and I'm optimistic, and I believe you are, and
amen.
We have a lot to be thankful for as we head into 2025. It's hard to even.
Who'd have thunk?
I know. Here we are. Thank you for being with us, though, and we'll see you again next time on Central Texas Life. Bye-bye.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder. This has been a Rogue Media Network production.